Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Gray Area with Yvette. Um, so, the last video was on toxic masculinity, and I noted within that video that there is kind of a flip side to that of toxic femininity that no one really talks about. Funny enough, when I was doing a little research for this video on toxic femininity, which we're going to discuss today, I couldn't really even find any videos on toxic femininity, which I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. A lot of the guys that are haters or opposed to the idea that toxic masculinity exists believe strongly in toxic femininity, funny enough. So there's like a little bit of a double standard there. But I believe the reason that femininity is not talked about is because it's not quite as damaging to our culture and our society as toxic masculinity is, because women aren't necessarily um, in as much power, either in positions of power, nor do we typically have as much power physically as men. So therefore, it's rare that you find cases of women, beating and killing their male partners. I mean, of course it exists, but it's extreme outliers versus with men, it's like the most common way for a woman to die is by her male partner, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's obviously thankfully not as big of a problem as toxic masculinity, but it does still exist. So, let's go over the key points about toxic femininity, how to look out for if you're a woman, how to get out of your toxic feminine. Um, I feel like my biggest thing with toxic femininity, as we discussed in the toxic masculinity, is that when you get to the extremes of causing harm to yourself or others in the name of like being feminine or being in your feminine, just like with being in your masculine, two extremes that cause harm. So for females, how that looks like the self harm. So, feminine energy is very receptive, like an open, soft, receptive, receiving energy. So, the biggest issue I see with toxic femininity is women that will just take anything, literally, that just take anything. Like, they basically are receptive to the point of being doormats. They let men walk all over them. They let people walk all over them. They're constantly self sacrificing. So, sacrificing for your job, for your friends, for your partner, for your children. Like, yes, obviously, there's going to be a degree of sacrifice for children and things that make sense. But women tend to go to the extreme of sacrificing to the point that they give nothing to themselves and they're not taking care of themselves. It's like, when you're on the plane, they tell you put the mask on yourself first before you try to save someone else. Like, women are not even showing themselves love or caring for themselves and giving all that energy until, like, you're gonna just deplete yourself that way. So being so much of a caretaker, which is like it's in your feminine energy, I feel like, to take care of and to be nurturing, um, but not to give at the expense of yourself. So that is toxic, giving above and beyond. It's just like expected for us to do. And then, like I said, the receptive, like receiving in a bad way, like receiving bad things from people. So, say like you're with a boyfriend, partner, whatever, and he's just like not treating you well, and he's like feeding negativity into you, like, oh, you're not this enough, you're not skinny enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not blah, blah, blah. And women will still sit there and receive that. Like, it's different to be receptive to having a partner like, oh, I want to treat you, I want to take care of you, I want to treat you like a queen, and we have that receiving energy in that capacity. But when they're not doing that and they're tearing you down instead of building you up, A, that's toxic of them. But B, you're being just as, oh my God, you're being just as toxic by accepting that behavior from a man. So, woman, if you get anything from this video, and shoot, men too, do not treat a woman like that. That's not being a real man. And women, do not accept that behavior. That's not being a real woman, to just like kind of be a dormouse. Know your standards, know your worth, have that love for yourself. Don't receive anything that you don't want to receive. If it doesn't feel good to be receptive with someone, don't be receptive with that freaking person. Like, it's okay to pick and choose who you want to be feminine with. I'm not feminine with everybody that I hang out with. I'm not feminine with all men. Like, men have to prove to me that I can be safe with them before I get really in my feminine with men. I don't get in my feminine for men that do not make me feel safe and secure, first and foremost. I'm going to be in my protective nature. I'm going to be in my masculine until I trust them. And then with women, I can just be as masculine or as feminine as I want because they just accept me the way I am, which is amazing. So, highly recommend just being around people that accept you the way you are, regardless, and all your positive balance of how you want to express your masculinity and femininity. So yes, the extremes, harm to yourself. Now, where it comes to toxic femininity and harm to others, I will say there are women, of course, that use their femininity as a weapon. So we'll say weaponized femininity is toxic. So weaponized femininity is a woman that is using her I know how to use my body, my charm, my sexuality to coerce or use men or use whoever, like to coerce and to use people, and it becomes a manipulation. So, for example, there's this trope in movies all the time or stories where women seduce men and then, kill them or take all their money or it's like in movies. Like, this is not really a normal, well, not to that extreme. Obviously, they're not generally killing them, but yes, in real life, they may use their feminine charms to like pull one over. To use the expression, pull one over on a man. Use him for his money, take him for everything's worth, or just get what they need out of the relationship, out of the man. And I mean, I hate to say it, but if the man is slow enough to fall for it, so there's like a degree of just like if a woman is not putting her foot down and receiving negative treatment for a man, she is to an extent bringing that on herself. Not, I don't want to say she's bringing it on herself, but she's like putting up with it. So same thing with a man. If a woman is like using you, it's because you're inviting yourself to be used, and if you're not seeing it or you're not paying attention to it, like you have to take responsibility for the women that you choose, just like women have to take responsibility for the men that they choose. So if you're picking like a woman that's like using her body to attract men and you fall for it, like, well, you fell for it. Like, so don't hate the woman because she's like operating out of her manipulation version of femininity to like get what she wants out of you, but like she has to have willing participants to get what she wants out of them. um I mean, heck, I'm not above this. Like, I've definitely not, I wouldn't say like they've intentionally done it, but I've definitely had women that because they were beautiful, because they were gorgeous, I let a lot of red flags slide. And that's real. That's human. Like, we love beautiful people. Um and you want to think the best about someone or think that someone's going to be a good person because they're physically attractive and on the surface level they seem internally attractive, but you have to remember that just because someone seems attractive at face value and like they're being a basic nice person, that doesn't mean that they're actually beautiful on the inside. So learning that life lesson as soon as possible and then taking accountability. Like, I pretty much got played by women too. And do I think all women are terrible and toxic? Hell no. Like, I know they're not. I know for a fact they're not because I've met so many other women that were truly beautiful on the inside and outside. And when I did fall for a woman like that, I reflected back on myself. Okay, like, what was it in me that allowed me to fall for that trick, that allowed me to ignore those red flags? Because I knew I saw the red flags. I literally just ignored them because I was like, oh, it'll be fine. Like, because I wanted the relationship to work, of course, and I wanted to think that me believing the best in her would bring out the best in her. And unfortunately, that's not always how people work. So watch out for the manipulation, yes, and using femininity to use people. And I think those are the main those are the main points of toxic femininity that I can think of right now. Um, just in my brief little research that I did. If you think of anything else, any other ways that femininity can be toxic, we did like a basic run of the masculinity as well, so I feel like this one's pretty comparable. But yeah, feel free to throw in the comments anything I may have missed, and any topics coming up for next week. But other than that, peace out. See y'all later.